Hey everyone, and welcome to day 3 of the Year of the Man Summit. My name is Elise Micheals. If you're not familiar with me, I'm a trauma-informed men's coach, and I created this summit last year as a way to help men support their mental health. So we have 7 days, 7 different creators, all on different topics to help men become better fathers, spouses, leaders, and men. And today we are so blessed to have Kevin Connelly. He's a certified breathwork instructor, founder of Mexico-based wellness institution Reconnect. He teaches clients how to use their body to positively influence and manage their physical and mental health. And I met Kevin in Mexico doing ice baths on the beach. He really helped me during that time. His presence, his energy, the way that he guides you through things, and the science and knowledge that he has behind ice baths, and also his personal story was so encouraging. And I had to get him on here tonight to speak to all of you about how you can use your own physical health to help your mental health. So thank you, Kevin, so much for being here, and take it away.
Thanks so much, Elise. Thanks so much for having me. Welcome, everybody. I'm thrilled to be here. As Elise mentioned, we met not too long ago, and when I heard about the work that she was doing, it kind of aligned with a lot of the work that I've done in my life. And before I start tonight, I just want to preface this whole talk with, I want to be as vulnerable and open as possible. So when you do ask your questions tonight, please be the same way. While I work in the wellness industry, I am in no way an expert. I am in no way perfect at a lot of the things that I practice. And as a matter of fact, I'm very imperfect at all of them. And so I want you guys to ask your questions when you can, because I'm sure someone else will have them, and I'd love to answer them as best as I can. So I think the place I'm going to start tonight is at the beginning of my story, which was about 2.5 years ago, about 3 years ago now, let's say that. I was working in human rights. I was living in Seattle. I had a pretty stressful job. I was working as an anti-trafficking program manager in trying to prevent human trafficking in businesses. So as you can imagine, this was a relatively stressful position that I had. One thing that I didn't have then that I do have now are tools to manage my mental health. So in my mind, going to the gym was managing my mental health. Going out with friends and drinking was managing my mental health. And even the gym was something that I couldn't really make it to that often at the time. So slowly but surely, things started to happen in my job. Things started to happen in the world. And these things kind of started to grow inside my body, and I kind of started to feel it. And it started with insomnia. Has anyone experienced insomnia? Feel free to drop a yes into the chat. This is something that now that I work with a lot of clients on a daily basis and see people on a daily basis, seems like 80% of the people that I talk to deal with insomnia in one way, shape, or form. It's hard to say what everyone is doing to manage that insomnia, but I know for me personally at the time, I was not doing anything. I was watching TV until late hours of the night on my phone. Basically, I started collecting these habits. I started drinking a lot during COVID. I started smoking cigarettes. I was smoking weed. Suddenly, I developed a porn addiction. So I was doing that. Just really, when it came to self-care, I kind of had hit this flat line. And made the decision to leave the US and move to Mexico and start something new. So the moment I moved to Mexico, imagine finally arriving after 6 months of planning. You're gonna make the change. The move is what's gonna help you. At the time, I didn't really know what was happening. I knew that I wasn't feeling great. but I didn't really know the extent of it. So in my ideal world, as soon as I would get to the beaches in Mexico, that would solve the problem. And I remember I arrived on day one to Sayulita, which is a small little beach town on the Pacific coast of Mexico. And I was sitting on the beach, and I think I had a Corona in my hand or close by, was looking at the waves, and suddenly I just knew that something was really wrong. And I didn't feel that happiness that I was anticipating to have. Instead, I just felt lonely. I felt isolated, and I felt this really strange feeling that I hadn't done anything with my life, and I probably wasn't going to do anything with my life. Now, I know depression manifests in people in different ways. But for me, that's how it started. And as the days started to go on, those feelings of self-doubt, self-denial, and really breaking down my experiences in my life became just crushingly hard. I'm very, very lucky. I've lived a pretty cool life. I've lived in a lot of places around the world. I worked as a photographer in Southeast Asia. I worked as a human rights advocate. I've traveled a ton. I've done amazing things. But in that moment, I hadn't done anything. I hadn't amounted to anything, and I wasn't going anywhere. So the insomnia started getting worse. The anxiety started getting worse. The stress started getting worse. And this voice in my mind was just repeatedly telling me that I could not do things. I couldn't get here. I couldn't get that person to like me. I couldn't be friends with this person. So I just started becoming more and more isolated, staying in more, not going out. And pretty quickly, I started to feel my physical energy go. I found myself on the couch more. I found myself in front of Netflix more. I found myself watching more porn. Very controlled by that, I will say, especially for a few months in the worst part of that depression. But it was really the conversations that I would have with my mind that I found the most harmful to my mental health. And my mind just repeatedly telling me what I couldn't do, where I couldn't go. And so this went on for about 4 months. I've had a lot of friends and family in my life who suffered with depression. Many of them have used antidepressants, and either they're still on them after years and years of doing it. Some of them have, luckily, very much improved. But I feel like in my experience and the people around me, many of them have not. And they've gone from one medication to the other, to the other, to the other, or they've just have gone off them because they've been harmful to their body or mental health in some way. Now, no judgment to anyone who takes medication, but for me, I really didn't want to go that route. So instead of going and seeing a doctor, I went and saw a shaman instead and had a conversation with him, did some deep meditation. And for a couple of weeks, I felt pretty good. I knew that I wanted to go a more holistic route. I knew that just taking that pill was, for me, felt like it was going to be a Band-Aid on a much bigger issue, because I knew that if I didn't treat these things from the source of the problem, they were just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger over time. But I was so energetically depressed that I just couldn't get off my couch. I wanted to go out and do yoga. I wanted to meet people. I wanted to socialize. I had no friends when I first moved to Playa del Carmen. I wanted to do meditation classes, but I just couldn't get off my couch. So I would just sit on my couch by myself and just cry and not know how I was going to get through it. And at this point, I was thinking about suicide every day. It was a really, really rough time. That was the first time I'd ever experienced depression. And I will say that for anyone who hasn't experienced it, it's so hard to understand what someone is going through until you've gone through it yourself. I had some very close family members experience it, and I thought I knew what it was like because I'd seen it manifest in someone else. But until you actually go through that, it's very difficult to understand it. So I started searching for what can I do? What can I do to get myself out of this rut? As I was searching on the internet, I found breath work. And as soon as I saw it, I thought, okay, I can do this on my couch. I don't have to get off my couch to do this. Maybe this can help me. So I read a book about it and I was like, great, I'm just going to sign up for a teacher's training. I might as well get all the information I need as quickly as I can. And signed up for the teacher training. It was an online training. Within about a week of doing maybe 2 to 3 hours of breath work every day, my depression was gone. Not only was it gone, but I was suddenly in control of my emotions like I had never been before. So I remember just these days of walking to the grocery store and kind of starting to feel that feeling of depression creeping back a little bit. And I would just stop and do a specific breathing exercise that I'd learned. And suddenly, not only was that feeling of sadness, loneliness, and isolation gone, it was replaced with joy. It was replaced with happiness. It's very hard to explain, but I suddenly was back in control again. About the same week as that, I met my first friend. Her name's Sarah Benz here in Playa del Carmen. She invited me to an ice bath. And I said, of course. At that point, I literally would have, lit my hair on fire if it meant feeling better in some way. And I was pretty hesitant. I didn't really do that much research on ice baths. I just wanted to try something new. So I got into the ice the first day. And immediately my brain was, you need to get out. You need to get out. This hurts. It's painful. I could feel the needles in my hands, in my toes, in my back. It's not an easy thing the first time you do it. It's painful. And my brain just kept telling me like, you need to get out. You need to get out. And I started shaking my head no. And the guy who was leading at the time just looked at me and said, you can do it. And so I just took a deep breath. I took another deep breath, just told myself I could do it. And suddenly the pain started to go down. And that was a huge moment for me, because at that moment, I realized that I was in control of my brain, not the other way around. And I think as I had fallen into this depression, I just forgot that it's not in control of me, that I'm in control of my thoughts. And I kind of just let my thoughts take over. So it was a huge pivotal moment for me. And I'll get into the science of that in a little bit, because it's super exciting and I love to geek out about it. But from that moment on, I was just absolutely hooked on everything related to breathing. So I started getting into Tantra, I started free diving, I started scuba diving, anything that I could do that would put me in control of my body in a way that empowered me. And since then, I've been doing all those things very regularly. I was able to quit smoking, very much cut back on my drinking. I was able to quit porn. Now, I'm not perfect on all these things. Again, I will reiterate this point. I feel like a lot of people who teach some of these things, they get on their pedestal and they talk about how they never do it anymore. It's not true. It's something that I have to practice to keep at bay. And I have to implement a number of practices into my daily and weekly routine in order to keep those at bay. Because it's still something that I struggle with in some ways. I still think about watching porn. I still flip on it and watch it every once in a while. So it's a practice. Same thing with, drinking too much. I try my hardest not to do it. Every once in a while, I slip, and that's okay. So that was kind of how I really pulled myself out of the darkest part of my life. It's not that complex of a story, but I really wanted to tell it because I think so many people nowadays think that the road to recovery is this super long process that they have to take. And I am living proof that that's not true. And for me, I feel like the standard medicinal, here's a pill, come and see me in a month approach, it might work for some people, but I will say that my natural route was so much faster in healing myself. And I feel like a lot more people can take that approach or at least try it and potentially experience similar things. So, quick question for everyone. Who has tried an ice bath and who has tried breathwork before? Feel free to drop down into the chat. So let's start with breathing. I think a lot of people get really thrown off by the word breathwork. They hear it and they're like, "Ooh, that's super woo-woo. I don't want to go near that. I'm not a hippie. I don't wear feathers in my hair. I don't wear open-chested shirts. It's just not for me." And I hear you, because there are a lot of spiritual people within that world who talk about breath work who I really don't relate to either. What really captured me was understanding how important functional breathing is to your overall health, okay? So let me just give you a quick picture. You eat 3 times a day. You exercise once a day, maybe 3 times a week, right? Both of those things are super important to your physical and mental health. You breathe between 20 and 25,000 times a day. 20 to 25,000 times per day. So imagine if every single one of those breaths you were doing dysfunctionally or in a way that was harmful to your body. To think that that wouldn't have an effect on you in some way, shape, or form is just the wrong way of looking at it. So a lot of us talk about having chronic stress, chronic anxiety, chronic depression. And you ask those people to take in a deep breath, and what do? They do something like this. Same thing happens at the doctor's office. You go into the doctor's office, he tells you to take a deep breath in, you take a deep breath in through your mouth, and you use your shoulders. Okay? So first of all, your shoulders aren't meant for breathing at all. Your shoulders and your chest aren't meant for it. Your diaphragm and your ribs are where your breathing is meant to take place, down here, right? So not up here. So if you ever feel like you really need to breathe, whether you're at work and you're feeling stressed, whether you can't go to sleep at night, put your hands on your belly, okay? And as you breathe in, take a slow breath in through your nose and push your belly out. And then slowly exhale out through your nose and feel your belly going back in, okay? What you want to shoot for is 5 to 6 second inhales and exhales. Okay, this is going to decrease your heart rate and it's going to calm your nervous system down. So when you're breathing through your mouth all day long, you end up breathing a lot more. Now people will say, what's the problem with that? Unfortunately, there's a lot of problems with that. I won't get into too many of them, but one of the problems is that it activates your sympathetic nervous system. So it sends a lot of the energy out to your extremities and it prepares your body for something to happen. You know, as we evolved, like think about cavemen, when a tiger came into their area, right? They needed to prepare themselves mentally and physically. So we would start to breathe through our nose, through our mouth, right? Same thing when someone tells you something that makes you angry or upset. What do? You take that breath in, right? So breathing in through the mouth constantly is just preparing your body for something to happen. So instead, if you're able to breathe in through your nose is actually taking in more oxygen, but it's causing you to breathe slower, which slows your heart rate and allows you to breathe in nasal nitric oxide, which is this chemical that builds up in your nasal cavity, that when you breathe it in by breathing in through your nose, you're actually opening up your blood vessels and creating better circulation in your body. So these are just a few reasons why nasal breathing all the time. Now, I don't want to spend too much time on the breathing, but there are so many breathing exercises on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram, all over the place. If you've never paid attention to it before, go just try some breathing exercises. I promise you it will be such a great thing to implement into your daily, morning, or nightly practice. Just 5 minutes. If you're able to stop and close your eyes, turn off your phone, stop looking at something, and just take slow breaths in for 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out. It's such a game changer. Now, ice baths. Quick question. I know I was seeing some before, but if you've done an ice bath before, maybe just throw like a quick 1 up into the chat. Ice baths are, for those of you who've done them, you know how powerful they are. For those of you who have not done them, you have to try them. I really encourage every single person to try them. And there's many reasons why, and I won't speak forever about this, but I want to go over some of the major points because for me, it's been an absolute game changer. So first thing that happens when you go into an ice bath, all your blood vessels constrict, so they close down. So if you have an area of your body that's trying to heal, right? Like maybe you bumped your elbow, maybe you cut yourself, you're going to have blood constantly flowing to that part of your body because your body is trying to heal it. But often what happens is too much blood starts flowing to that particular part. So what happens? It gets inflamed. So when you go into the ice, those blood vessels are going to constrict, which means the blood stops flowing to that part of your body. So it gives that part of your body a break and allows it to actually heal much faster. So that's the first thing that happens. Second thing that happens is you practice breathing nice and slow, right? So your body is being physically stressed, but you're breathing really slow. And so this is like an incredible, I don't love always using the word biohack, but this is an absolute killer of a biohack. And why this is because when your body's being physically stressed and you start breathing slow and deep, it tells your body that you're fine, that everything is going okay, you're calm, your heart rate decreases, your breathing decreases, and you're in control of your body. So what this does is it retrains your body so that the next time you're being stressed, and it doesn't have to be a physical stress. It can be when you start to get in an argument with someone, you start talking about politics or whatever. Normally what happens is you start to breathe faster. You might not realize it, but all of us inherently start to breathe faster. And when we start to breathe faster, our heart rate increases, our blood pressure increases, and that in turn, oftentimes makes us do something really impulsive, right? But by doing these breathing exercises in the ice, we're retraining our body to stay nice and calm when we're in the ice. So it's one of the amazing benefits of this practice. Another thing that happens is our circulation is increased. So as I mentioned, the blood vessels close when we're in the ice. When we come out of the ice, those blood vessels burst open again and sends a shot of blood all the way through our system, essentially acting as like a garbage man, cleaning our bloodstream. So it's just like this very natural way of cleaning your body out. Now, what's great about increased circulation is anyone who has ever experienced erectile dysfunction, which I have been one of those people, you're suddenly getting blood flow to all the right areas. We're in a day and age where we're super sedentary, right? We're sitting down all the time. We're not walking enough. Human beings used to walk up to 20 miles a day regularly or more. Now we have a goal of 10,000 steps, which is 3.5 miles, 4 miles. It's nothing. It's nothing. So our blood flow is just not going like we used to. So that's one of the great other benefits of this practice, is just increasing blood flow to our entire body. Now, on top of that, what I found from doing this practice regularly, and many of those who come, and we've probably hosted easily 1,000 people at this point, is things start seeming easier. When you're on a regular basis challenging yourself and telling your brain to shut the fuck up for a second, I've got this, I can do it, like you just take a break and I will take over from here. Suddenly, when you start to get into work and you start to look at something like, oh shit, this is a hard problem, how do I deal with this? Instead of saying, I don't know, you say, yeah, we'll figure it out. We can get through this. There's a way around it. We can do it. And I used to just doubt myself all the time. A problem would come up. Shit, I don't know how to do that. I guess I'll just won't do it. And that's what I've done so much of my life. But because of ice baths, and because I have a great business partner, Phil Parkinson, who's been great in encouraging me in this, we don't really see problems as issues anymore. We look at them as, great, this is just a creative thing that we need to solve. And I know many other people who come to the ice baths feel the same way. It just gives you this power over your body and your mind that you didn't really realize you had before. So that's kind of the general overview of all of this. For both ice baths and breath work, for people trying to get into it, don't look too hard and try and find the right person, the perfect teacher. Like, just start doing it. There's tons of videos out there. There's tons of tutorials. Just jump and start doing something, right? Don't think about excuses why, like, it's too difficult, or why you might be doing it wrong. Most of us are kind of doing things wrong all the time anyway, right? Like, no one really has things figured out. We all kind of just like halfway in the dark, kind of stumbling around. So just find some exercises, find some tutorials, and just go with it. Same thing with ice baths. If you can't find, a local organization, they're kind of just starting to spring up now, but there still aren't that many around the world. Do some research, find some things online. There's definitely a lot of things out there on how to do an ice bath at home. Invite some friends over, never do it alone. Obviously, that's a very important part. Always have someone there with you. And there's a few simple guidelines to follow, but it's really not that difficult. But the benefits are just massive, massive, massive. So I don't want to talk for too long because I feel like questions are really important. And I do want to focus on some of those questions. So I'm just going to stop right there. And I think I will just go ahead and open it up.
Okay. And Kevin, before we get into the Q&A,
Yes.
because that's going to be reserved a lot for the VIP, can you just take us through like a quick, maybe 1 minute breath work just to see how it feels in our body, see if we can like regulate our system right now. I really want them to feel the effects because what you're saying is so important. Would you guys be down for that? Like, would you want to do that? Put like a 1 in the chat if you want Kevin to lead us through. Is that okay with you, Kev?
Absolutely. I'd love that.
Okay, excellent. Everybody get set. Let's do breath work with Kevin.
All right. Okay, so if you're sitting, just try and sit with a straight back. It's always important that when you're breathing, you have a straight spine because you want your lungs to be open. So you don't want to be, crouching over like this if you're practicing breathing. So just kind of sit up straight and just go ahead and just roll your shoulders back a little bit. And then go ahead and close your eyes. And just bring your attention to your breath. Just take a few easy breaths here, in and out through the nose. Just noticing where your breath is. So when you breathe in, which part of your body is moving? Do you feel like your breath is in your chest, around your shoulders, around your neck? Do you feel like it's down by your ribs, by your belly? Just breathing really nice and easy. All right, when you take a breath in, why don't you just try and put one hand on your belly. And as you breathe in, just push your belly out. As you breathe out, just slowly let your belly drop. And again, taking a breath in, slowly pushing that belly out, and then letting it go slowly, feeling that belly come in. Just take a few more at your own pace. Remember, if you feel your shoulders moving, just try and relax them. Everything should be happening down by your belly. If you need to push, like physically push your belly out when you take a breath in, you can do that. Just keeping your attention on your breath. Slowly in, letting go. Slowly in, letting go. 2 more, slowly in, letting go. Last one, in and out. Just returning to your normal breath. Remember that anytime you're feeling stressed, you're feeling anxious, you're feeling depressed, don't do a big something like that, right? Take a slow breath in to your belly and just slowly exhale it out. Just do that for a couple minutes. And I promise that will really change the way that you're feeling. It'll slow your heart rate, decrease your blood pressure. It's such a great practice for any time of the day.
Wow. Thank you so much, Kevin, for guiding us through that. Who feels like immediately more relaxed and more chill? Because I totally do. And isn't his voice so gentle? He just does it so well. That's why I had him come on. And so, Kevin, I actually have some questions I would like to ask you before we
Yeah.
go into VIP.
Yeah.
When you were talking about how breath work and ice baths encourage the energy to flow through your body more, right? You were even talking about how some men can regain erections after this.
Mhm.
As I was sitting there during the small session we just had, I felt a lot of pressure in my chest, and it made me wonder if you found a correlation between breath work and the releasing of emotions in the body. If when you started getting into the breath work, if you had maybe like a lot of releases that it also inspired.
Yeah, I mean, so many, too many to count, to be honest. No matter where you stand from a biological or spiritual understanding of the human body, I really feel like depression is not a disease. It is a stressful life events caused by life choices that we make. And I really believe that a lot of trauma and a lot of stressful events that happen in our life kind of just stay in our body because we don't know how to address them. We aren't given the tools as young people to work through our emotions, especially men, right? We don't know how to do that. We're told not to cry. We're told not to be a baby. We're told to man up. And so rather than crying, which is fucking healthy, we just push it down, right? And suffer in silence, Brian, exactly, right? Like, so breathing is one of these amazing ways to let those things go naturally. And so what kind of happens is, I mean, I'm not an expert in this particular process, but for me, it just feels like it brings everything up. It literally brings whatever I've been holding out of my body. Now, it depends on the breath work that I'm doing, but sometimes, you could do a more powerful breathing exercise like the Wim Hof method, which is deep, powerful breaths followed by long breath holds. So you're essentially hyperventilating, and then you're holding your breath for long periods of time. And I've had so many things pop up and be released during breathing exercises like that. I broke my neck when I was really young. And so sometimes I feel the vertebrae kind of pop out of place a little bit, and I have to go to the chiropractor and have them pop back in. And this happened about a year ago where I felt it pop out. And I was like, all right, shit, I need to go to the chiropractor. But I have this breathing circle to go to tonight. And I went to this breathing practice. And as I was doing the breathing, I felt my vertebrae just click right back in. So it's for me, it's not just, emotional. It's breathing functionally realigns your body. I think it's a tool for literally just realigning your body when it falls out of place. So yeah, for anyone who has gone through major trauma, major, emotional state changes in the last few years, look into, you can do it yourself. You can find videos online. If you don't feel comfortable doing it with other people, you can do it yourself at home. But there are, I think nowadays, it's safe to say that in almost every major place, there's places where you can go that people are facilitating breath work, and you can, experience that in a facilitated setting.
Okay. And when you had first explained to me your experience about moving out of depression and anxiety, I remember you actually telling me that you were on your couch starting to do this breath work.
Mm.
And I just want to get your perspective. like as a man, do you think, or, what do you think about breath work and ice baths as tools for men when it comes to, the releasing the emotions, the connecting with themselves, the getting out of depression?
Yeah, well, I think I think the ice baths, for me, I've seen more military ex special forces and very burly men cry in the ice bath. Not because it was painful, but because things came up and they weren't expecting it. And that might be uncomfortable for some people to experience that in a group setting. But many of these guys didn't know that thing, whatever it was still there. So I think for men, I think ice baths are a fucking great tool for that, because they can very, very quickly bring things up to the surface. Breath work can do that as well, clearly, as I just mentioned. But for anyone, including you, Elise, who's done an ice bath, you know that you feel things very instantaneously. And so, it's hard to say. Everyone's so different, right, in terms of how this will affect them. But again, for men, I think the ice bath, I think I would almost recommend the ice bath more, because it's a very empowering exercise. And I think a lot of times nowadays, men just feel very disempowered. And I know that that's what I felt when I first did it. I really had felt like I'd kind of lost a bit of my manhood. But getting out of the ice the first time, I felt like, yeah, I'd regained my mojo again. So, I mean, as important as I think functional breathing is, for anyone who's going to walk away trying one of these things, I'd probably say try the ice bath.
I love, love, love that you shared that. Thank you so much, especially the experiences that military men have had, because one of the questions that just came up in the chat, not the Q&A, was, do ice baths bring out emotional healing too, or is it mostly physiological? And just from my personal experiences doing your ice baths, because living in Playa del Carmen, guys, there's healing like around every corner. They've got tantra groups and meditation groups and yoga classes and ice baths and like ecstatic dancing. So I did some breath work sessions that were solely focused on breath work, and I saw people having these transformations. But for me, that didn't happen. And I was just like, okay, well, that wasn't working for me. And the second I got in the ice bath, like Kevin is saying, you are forced to face yourself, because your breath, you're controlling, you can slow it down, you're controlling that. You can't control how cold the water is when it's hitting you. And you have to fight your mind to say, like, I'm not going to die in this. And how am I going to force myself to stay in this? So very, very powerful, transformative experience personally. And I saw many men in there really have the same experience that you had, Kevin, where it's like you push through and you feel like, if I could get through this, our ice baths were 3.5 minutes, for anyone wondering. If I could get through this 3.5 minutes, I can get through anything, because truly everything is in